Hello, everybody. CatSheet1383 with CatSheet Gaming with episode 93, the Epic Store weekly free games. So this one's a bit confusing. Yes, there's two of them, with the first one being Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. But if you look at the art there, it looks like Doki Doki Literature Club or Doki Doki Plus Literature Club Plus. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. I was semi fooling around. And when I saw the whole Doki Doki thing, I was like, Doki Doki? Like Doki Doki Panic? The game Nintendo turned into Super Mario Brothers 2 in the US? So then I had to go and look up what Doki Doki means. So, assuming that Google has not led me astray, a heart which is beating fast. Okay. Yeah, I saw it right there. It's a Japanese phrase. I guess it's an idiom. So I guess we all learned something today if you didn't know that before. So I'm not entirely sure how to treat this game exactly. I wouldn't even call it a game. It's kind of a visual novel, which I really wouldn't classify as a game. I mean, I guess there's some game elements to it. It's more like this weird attempt at combining Undertale with a visual novel, I guess, in a sort of sense. So, this game starts off by letting you know that every character in this game is 18, and then changes to several anime-ish girls with some very risque flapping skirts, which got my gaming sense a little on edge in terms of what this might be. It offered to let me know what may, I guess for lack of a better word, trigger people, which caused my gaming sense to tingle just a little bit more. Because I'm pretty sure they're not going to go a perverted route, although it's borderline that. And it definitely kind of telegraphed the direction it was going to take in this game. And so I'm a little nervous about handling the subject matter. Although, considering how they unfold, or I should say the events unfold in the game, it's a little iffy if it's actually bad or not. So it starts off with just text, and then it just keeps going on with text, and then on and on and on with even more text. And it got to like maybe 20 minutes in, and I'm like, when's this gonna go anywhere? So I just started clicking. So not before I got to the other characters in the game. You have your childhood friend, and I guess let's call them love interests for all intents and purposes. Except for one, which I'll reveal maybe a little bit later what she is. But even though it said that they're all 18, I'm not sure if this is a thing or was a thing, but I guess apparently Japanese count the time in utero as part of that age. I don't know. Someone please tell me if that's a myth or not. So that would make them 17, so it's a little because two of them are well endowed. Let's just say how it is, and your character points that out, along with them shifting between, I guess, several of the same frame. Some of them get a little on the risque side with that skirt, and I kind of have to wonder if I'm on a watch list now. And I'm kind of getting the feeling that was done on purpose due to the nature of the game. Or I should say visual novel. I'm not sure which. So after meeting the characters, they decide that they're going to write poetry, and that you have to bring it in the next day, and you play, I guess it was a game. This is like the only game element here that I ran into, and it took like 40 minutes to get here, even with clicking. And I just started clicking on random words. What I didn't realize that the stickers on that bottom left hand corner there would bounce whenever I chose something that that particular character liked. Ended up getting the purple haired girl there. I can't remember her name for the life of me. So after bothering to actually look it up, there's Yuri. That's her name. And that's the only one I remember. And Monica. At least, or Monica. I don't know. So then I just ended up clicking some more after this little bit here. Which case, then you go back to the literature club, which seems to involve a lot of writing poetry instead of reading it or reading books, but whatever. You read your poem to whoever. They give you feedback, which I never read at all. I was too busy clicking through it. And this took like an hour and a half to get through, to get to the. It's not even the ending of the game, I might add. For all intents and purposes, it just started by the time I was like, ugh. So after you read the poetry, get your feedback, you go back and you do more selecting. And this is more or less where I noticed that certain words corresponded to certain characters. And it was pretty easy to predict what words the character would react to. And I sort of just went with Yuri. I mean, she seemed kind of nice. She gave your character a book. One of the few moments that I actually slowed down to bother reading text because it was on a screen that didn't involve the same three stills. This then resulted in, I guess, sort of a date with Yuri? I don't know. I kind of just clicked through it really fast. All I know is she came over, talked. Best friend girl there with the pink hair and the ribbon came over. And then she's like, I profess my love for you. And you can either friend zone her or be like, yeah, I love you too. And this is kind of where it becomes, well, it was already predictable, but this is kind of like, yeah, okay, something bad's about to happen at this point, even though this feels not so much as lighthearted, kind of serious because it's her feelings and all that other fun stuff. I mean, it went from the lighthearted, bright colored, happy music and stuff like that to something really serious, really fast. So the protagonist wakes up the next day, goes to the literature club, and is wondering where his friend was and why she hasn't showed up yet. Now, this is where I'm going to stop because it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. So he goes into her house, goes to her bedroom, and I'm not going to show anything, but she Alt F4s herself, if you catch my meaning, or Control Delete, Task Manager, Force In Program. She turned her 1 to a 0. I don't think I need to say any more. But that's when the game gets kind of on the weird side. Then it takes you to the splash screen, then takes you to where you either start a new game, load a game, or something like that, and you can see the character that was your best friend is now replaced with Monica there. And there's a whole bunch of squiggly stuff going on. So then as you progress through the game where you encountered your character, I should say not your character, your friend previously who's now gone, you get these weird flashes with Monica in there. And it does this for a good chunk of the first part of the game. Or I guess beginning that you have to sort of do over because they're hinting that something's weird and not quite right. And that's when I just looked up the wiki. Turns out Monica is some kind of weird entity. And I guess they're actually programs, so I'm not really sure how to handle the subject matter though. But it turns out the other girls are having issues. Yuri there has self-harm tendencies and Alt F4s herself as well later in the game. And I'm not entirely sure about the short pink one. I kind of only skimmed the wiki. And it apparently has multiple endings, but I wasn't about to sit through all that clicking just to get there. And the weird part is that this game is technically free on Steam, while it costs $15 on the Epic Store usually, even though it's free this week. I don't think it's the Plus version on Steam, so there's that. So with that said, I'm going to cover my bases here. If you need help, seek help. There are numbers out there that you can call, and someone can help you out. I'll put one in the description, just in case you see this and you have those tendencies, alright? Alright, let's move on to the second game, Lost Castle. I didn't spend too much time on this one. I honestly didn't like it all that much. So Lost Castle was developed by Hunter Studio, originally released on the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Microsoft Windows, Linux, Mac. Huh. No Xbox, I see. Okay. But it was released in February 2016. It is designated as a role-playing game, indie game, shooter game, fighting game, adventure. I feel like they're being a little bit fast and loose with some of these descriptions. It's kind of like a side-scrolling fighting game with various weapons, including ranged weapons, so I'm guessing that's where the shooting comes from. But it was published by Another Indie and Neon Doctrine. Made with the Unity engine. And I guess the one thing they didn't really add here is that it's kind of like a roguelike, in that you play different levels every time you die, and you're going to die. It's pretty much intended for you to die. It's kind of like Dead Cells, but slower and clunkier and not as fun. So the thing that kind of irritated me about this game is that you walk along and then you attack monsters and all that other fun stuff that you do. And then you come up against somebody with ranged or has a charging melee attack, and you have zero means of blocking or dodging. I mean, even if you do hit them or try and move out of the way, the hitboxes are so huge that if they just make any contact with pixels, you're still going to take a hit. So moving up and down to avoid the same plane as them doesn't always work. Kind of irritated me just a little bit. It felt like there was no player agency or recourse when it came to getting hit, and sort of artificially made the game harder and to dodge and also to kill you faster. So I was not a particular fan of this game in that regards. And then when you do die, you come back as another treasure hunter with a different set of weapons. And I'm not entirely sure how much this repeats itself. I mean, it does a lot because you can upgrade stats with the materials that you gathered before you died, making your character stronger and stronger for each run that you do. But I didn't find it compelling. I didn't like the slow, awkward clunkiness, the giant hit boxes, the lack of a dodge. I mean, I did eventually get a character with a shield. Yay, I guess. I afforded some form of block, but at that point I had enough and didn't bother trying to do any combat at that point. Anyways, if you want to give it a try, it's free until next week, the 15th of November, 2024. Anyways, if you made it this far, thanks for watching and have a good one.